I returned a birthday gift I got for my boyfriend after he insulted me about my colorful past. So, my boyfriend Jake and I had been dating for about 8 months and his birthday was coming up. I wanted to get him something really special. Because things had been going so well between us. I spent weeks thinking about what to get him and I finally decided on this vintage leather jacket I found at this little boutique downtown. It was expensive, like $300, which was basically my entire paycheck from my part-time job at the coffee shop. But he'd mentioned wanting a leather jacket so many times and this one was perfect. It was brown leather, not too shiny, kind of worn and just right. The store owner even told me it was from the 70s. I was so excited to give it to him. I wrapped it in this nice box with a bow and everything. His birthday fell on a Saturday. So I planned this whole day for us. I made breakfast, his favorite blueberry pancakes, and we went to this hiking trail he'd been wanting to check out. Everything was going perfectly until we got back to his apartment and I gave him the gift. He opened it and his face just lit up. He put it on immediately and was looking at himself in the mirror, telling me how much he loved it. I was feeling so proud of myself for picking out something he actually liked. But then his roommate Marcus came home with a couple of friends, and they all started complimenting the jacket. One of them asked where he got it and Jake pointed to me and said, "I bought it for him." That's when this guy, Trevor, who I'd met a few times before, made this weird comment about how I must have good taste since I'd been around the block a few times. I felt my stomach drop, but I tried to laugh it off. Trevor kept going, though, making these comments about how girls with experience always know what guys want. I could feel my face getting hot, but I didn't want to cause a scene. Then Jake, instead of telling his friend to shut up, actually laughed and said, "Yeah, she definitely knows her way around." Everyone started laughing and Trevor was like, "Bet she knows a lot about leather jackets from all the bikers she's dated." I just stood there frozen because Jake knew about my past. When we first started dating, I'd been completely honest with him about the fact that I'd had more relationships than him. I dated maybe 6 guys before him, which isn't even that many. But Jake had only had one serious girlfriend before me. I told him because I wanted to be honest, and he said it didn't matter to him. But now he was sitting there in the jacket I bought him, letting his friends make jokes about it. The worst part was when Marcus said something about how the jacket was probably picked out based on professional experience and Jake didn't say anything. He just kept smiling. I waited for him to defend me, to tell them to stop anything. But he just sat there. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked over to him and said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" We went to his room and I asked him why he didn't say anything when they were making those comments about me. He actually had the nerve to tell me I was being desensitive and that it was just guy talk. He said I shouldn't have told him about my past if I didn't want him to mention it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him that wasn't the point. The point was that he was supposed to have my back, not join in on making fun of me. That's when he said the thing that made me see red. He goes, "Look, it's not like they're wrong. You do have more experience than most girls our age. Maybe if you didn't want people commenting on it, you should have thought about that before being so colorful." Colorful like my past relationships were some kind of rainbow of shame. I just stared at him for a minute and then I said, "Take off the jacket." He looked confused and asked why. I said, "Because I'm returning it." "Take it off right now." He started backtracking, saying he didn't mean it like that. But I was done. I made him take off the jacket, folded it back up in the box, and walked out. His friends were still in the living room, and they all went quiet when they saw me carrying the box. I'm pretty sure they heard us arguing. I drove straight back to the boutique and thankfully, they had a good return policy. The store owner remembered me and asked if there was something wrong with the jacket. I just told her it wasn't the right fit. When I got home, Jake had texted me like 15 times saying he was sorry and that he didn't mean it. But the damage was already done. He called me later that night and I let it go to voicemail. The next few days were a whirlwind of mixed emotions. I kept thinking about how excited I had been to give Jake that jacket. How proud I felt that I had picked something he truly loved. And how quickly all of that pride turned into anger and disappointment. Every time my phone buzzed with a text from him, I had to resist the urge to throw it across the room. I wasn't just hurt by what his friends said. I was hurt that Jake, someone I trusted and cared about deeply, didn't have my back when it mattered the most. It was like all those months of honesty, of being vulnerable about my past, were dismissed in an instant. I spent that evening talking to my best friend over the phone, recounting everything. And she kept repeating that I had done the right thing. She said if he couldn't respect me in front of his friends, he wasn't going to respect me in the long term. Her words kept looping in my mind, reinforcing the decision I had already made in anger but also in self-respect. The next morning, I decided to take some time for myself. I went for a long walk through the city. The box with the jacket still sitting unopened on my dresser, the streets empty and crisp. The kind of quiet that lets you think clearly. I replayed the scene over and over, imagining what I could have said differently, how I could have defended myself without losing my cool. But every scenario ended the same way. Jake would have still laughed, still sided with his friends, still made me feel small. I realized then that this wasn't just about a birthday gift or a jacket. It was about trust, loyalty, and mutual respect in a relationship. That afternoon, I called my mom and vented for a solid hour, detailing everything with no filter. She listened quietly, occasionally gasping at the audacity of Jake's words. She reminded me that material gifts could never buy love or respect, and that my feelings were valid. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness after the call, like a weight had lifted slightly but also confirmed that my heart had been bruised. Later that week, I went back to the boutique to exchange the jacket for store credit, thinking maybe I could treat myself instead of buying for someone who didn't value me. I ended up buying a few smaller things I'd been eyeing for months, something for me, a reminder that I deserved care and attention too. Meanwhile, Jake kept texting, apologizing, promising he'd make it up to me, that he didn't mean it the way I took it. I ignored most of the messages, only reading them late at night when I felt weak, then closing my phone quickly before replying. I realized that forgiveness wasn't something I could give lightly. It had to be earned. That weekend, a mutual friend invited both of us to a small get-together. I debated whether to go, knowing Jake would be there, feeling a mix of dread and curiosity. I decided to attend, but only for a short time. At the party, he approached me cautiously, trying to joke, trying to act normal. But I was polite and distant. The discomfort was palpable, and I could tell he sensed it. I watched him interact with others, trying to gauge whether he truly understood the gravity of what happened, and honestly, he didn't. It was clear that his ego and fear of embarrassment outweighed the hurt he caused. After that night, I realized I couldn't continue investing in someone who didn't respect me in the moment of vulnerability. I needed someone who would defend me, stand by me, and never let anyone, friend or stranger, diminish my worth. Over the next month, I focused on myself, spending more time with friends, working extra shifts to save money, and diving into hobbies I'd neglected while wrapped up in the relationship. Every step, every small joy reminded me that I could be happy alone, and that a single jacket, no matter how meaningful, didn't define my value. Eventually, I sent Jake a final message, a clear boundary. I cared about him once, but trust was broken and I couldn't overlook the disrespect. I wished him well, blocked his number for a time, and felt a surprising sense of relief. Like a chapter had ended. That jacket, once a symbol of love and excitement, had transformed into a symbol of my self-respect. A reminder that gifts are meaningless if the person receiving them cannot honor the intention behind them. I learned that day that respect and loyalty matter more than grand gestures, and that protecting your dignity sometimes means walking away, even from someone you thought you loved. The leather jacket sat in my closet for a week before I finally returned it to the store, leaving it there as a tangible representation of letting go, of reclaiming my time, my money, and most importantly, my self-worth. Months later, I laughed when I thought back on it, realizing the experience had taught me a valuable lesson about boundaries, honesty, and the importance of being with someone who sees your past as part of your story, not a punchline for friends' jokes. I never regretted returning that gift. It was the moment I chose myself, and that decision rippled into every part of my life, teaching me to never settle for someone who doesn't protect you the way you deserve. Story 2. I turned 70 on a gray Tuesday evening. The kind of quiet, heavy day where even the sky feels tired. But age never bothered me. What bothered me was this. At 70, I felt more forgotten by my own daughter than I ever did serving 20 years in the United States Navy. That morning, my daughter Melissa called. Not lovingly, not warmly, not even kindly. Just, "Dad, dinner at 6, a few people are coming. Please don't wear anything," old as if that was something I had control over. Still, I went because fathers always go, especially fathers who served their country and came home to raise a daughter alone, after losing their wife too soon. When I walked into Melissa's house, it hit me instantly. I wasn't invited to be celebrated. I was there to be managed. The living room was full of her friends and coworkers, young professionals in their 30s who cared more about wine labels than real conversation. Their laughter was loud, practiced, and hollow. Melissa approached with a tense smile tightly stretched across her face. "Dad, sit over there. I'll bring your cake later." Over there was a chair in the corner. Not near the table, not near anyone. Away hidden like an outdated decoration she didn't want people to notice. I lowered myself into the chair slowly, my knees still a little stiff from my service years, and leaned my cane against the wall. As I sat, my fingers brushed something in my coat pocket. My navy pocket watch. Old silver, the front engraved with the words, "For courage, for love, come home to us." My wife gave it to me the night before my first deployment. The glass cracked when I survived a blast in the Persian Gulf. I kept it with me every day since. I checked the time, 6:08 p.m. But the crack in the glass always made the minute hand tremble. A reminder that some breaks never heal fully. Dinner began without me. Melissa's friends filled the room with stories of promotions, cruises, and overpriced gyms. No one noticed me. I didn't mind silence. Navy men learned to live inside it. But this silence wasn't peaceful. It was empty. The kind of silence you feel when you realize you're only present out of obligation. Halfway through dinner, I raised my glass. If I could say a few words. Melissa's hand shot out and gripped my wrist, her smile fixed for the room. Her whisper sliced like a blade. Dad, please don't embarrass me. Just don't talk right now. The grip hurt more than I expected. Not physically, emotionally. She pulled a folder from behind her and slid it onto my lap. Sign these after cake. It's nothing big, just some papers. I opened it. My heart sank. Power of attorney documents. She wanted control of my home, my healthcare, my bank accounts, my decisions on my birthday. In front of her guests. After all, I sacrificed after decades of service, after losing her mother, after raising her alone. This was what she thought of me. Melissa leaned down. Dad, you're getting older. It's for your own good. Older, not incompetent. Older, not finished. Older, not useless. I closed the folder slowly. I didn't argue. Navy men don't react emotionally. We listen, we measure. We move with purpose. Instead, I reached into my coat and placed the Navy pocket watch on the table between us. Melissa frowned. Dad, why did you bring that old thing? Old thing. Her mother's voice echoed in my memory. When she forgets what matters, give her the letters. I reached deeper into my coat and pulled out a cream-colored envelope sealed 15 years ago. In my wife's handwriting. Melissa froze instantly. Her friends went silent. Her husband stared. The room shifted. All eyes locked onto that envelope like it carried a loaded truth. I set it down next to the pocket watch. Your mother wrote this for you. She told me to give it to you the day you forgot who I am. Melissa's breath caught. Dad, no. Not now. But it was too late. The moment had come. Every guest leaned in. Every breath in the room went still. Her shaking hands reached for the envelope. But not out of curiosity, out of fear, because Melissa knew. Her mother always told the truth. And once his envelope opened, nothing in that room, not my life, not hers, would ever be the same again. Melissa held the cream-colored envelope as if it were glowing hot. Her fingertips trembled, her breathing grew shallow because she knew something. The others did not. Her mother never wrote anything meaningless and never sugar-coated the truth. The room went silent. No forks clinked. No wine glasses moved. Even her friends, who didn't know me, didn't know her mother, sensed something heavy. Melissa slowly peeled open the flap. Inside was a single folded letter and tucked behind it. Though she didn't notice yet. A smaller slip of paper, but first the letter. She unfolded it and her mother's handwriting opened like a wound that had never healed. She swallowed hard and began reading aloud, though her voice shook with every word. My dearest Melissa, if you are reading this, it means I am gone and you are older. Her voice already cracked. Her mother had been gone 15 years. But this hearing her words again pulled every memory out of Melissa's chest. She continued, I wish I could see the woman you became. But more than that, I pray you can still see the man your father is, a few guests murmured quietly, sensing the story beneath the surface. Melissa kept reading. Your father is a Navy man. Not loud, not showy. His love is the kind that works quietly, sacrifices quietly, and hurts quietly. She blinked rapidly. She remembered. She continued, he missed your first school recital because he was deployed. He cried in the parking lot at the base when he realized he missed it. A tear slid down her cheek. I said nothing. Navy men don't interrupt the truth. He came home early the night you broke your arm just to hold your hand at the hospital. Melissa covered her mouth, remembering the cast she decorated with glitter markers. He carried you through every fear you had. But he never taught you how to carry him when he became old. The room shifted. A few guests lowered their heads. Melissa's voice cracked. If he gives you this letter, Melissa, it means you forgot the difference between helping and taking. A soft gasp rippled across the dinner table. One day you may see his age as weakness. You may see his home as something to claim instead of something he built for you. Melissa sobbed. Her mother had predicted tonight perfectly. If he hands you this letter, my love, it means you chose pride over love. Melissa's tears hit the paper. Her mother ended with, remember who raised you. Remember who stayed. Remember who loved you more quietly than anyone you will ever meet. Mom. The letter fell from her hands. Melissa broke. Not dramatically, not loudly. But in a way only a daughter who knows she failed a good father can break. She whispered through tears, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. But she didn't know yet. Her mother left 2 letters, one for guidance and one for warnings. As Melissa wiped her face, her eyes finally noticed the second slip of paper tucked behind the envelope. It was thin, smaller, with her mother's handwriting on the outside. Read only if she crosses a line. Her hands went still. Her shoulders tensed. Her breath stopped because Melissa knew exactly what that meant. Her mother wrote a message for the moment Melissa became someone her mother feared she would become. Slowly, Melissa whispered, "Dad, please don't read that." But I already knew the truth wasn't meant to stay hidden. Melissa's fingers tightened around the thin slip of paper as if holding it could stop time itself. But time has a way of revealing everything, especially when a cracked navy pocket watch sits on the table, ticking unevenly, reminding everyone that years pass. But truth doesn't. I could see in Melissa's eyes that she already knew what the second letter contained. Not the words, but the truth. Her mother had loved her fiercely. Her mother had warned her gently. But her mother had also been honest to a fault, Melissa whispered, voice barely holding together. "Dad, please, not the second one. I don't think I can handle it." I held her mother's pocket watch in my palm. The cracked glass shimmered under the dining room lights. The crack came from a blast I survived during my Navy service. I'd always kept it. Not to remember the explosion, but to remember who was waiting for me back home. My wife and Melissa. Now the same watch reflected the tears on my daughter's cheeks. I opened the second slip slowly, not out of anger, out of duty. Her mother wrote this with shaking hands during her final days. A warning, a prophecy, a plea. I unfolded it. Melissa squeezed her eyes shut, but I read the words aloud. "Melissa, if your father is reading this, it means you have wounded him in a way I prayed you never would." Melissa inhaled sharply. Her friend stared at her with widened eyes, realizing they had walked into a family reckoning they were never prepared for. I continued. "You have your father's strength, but you also carry my deepest fear. That pride will one day blind you to the love that raised you." Melissa covered her mouth as another tear fell. "Your father's home is not an inheritance to be claimed early. It is the monument of a life he fought to build through war, through grief, through raising you alone." A few guests whispered quietly. "He was in the Navy." She tried to take his house, but the truth kept unfolding. "If you ever try to take advantage of his age, know that I stand with him, not you." Melissa shook her head violently. "I wasn't trying to take advantage. I thought I didn't mean." But the line her mother wrote next stopped her cold. "Intentions do not erase actions." Her knees weakened. She sank into a chair. I placed a pocket watch on the table gently. The cracked glass seemed to glow under the reflection of the candle. Melissa stared at it. "Mom used to wind that for you every night before deployment." Her voice broke again. "That watch was the last thing my wife touched before I went to sea. The last thing Melissa played with as a child. And the last piece of our family that remained unbroken, except it was broken just like us." I spoke softly but firmly. "The watch can stay cracked, Melissa, but we don't have to." She cried harder, not because of guilt now, but because she finally understood the depth of what she had been destroying. Then came a knock. Not dramatic, not scripted, just a gentle, rhythmic knocking, the kind you hear from someone polite, patient, and older. Melissa's eyes widened. "Dad, did you call someone?" I nodded slightly. "Earlier today, because I knew one thing. Her mother's letters were truth. But truth without action changes nothing." Evan, pale and speechless, walked to the door and opened it. Standing there was Mr. Branson, my longtime attorney, holding a small folder and wearing the same calm, respectful expression he always had. He stepped inside quietly. Not a dramatic entrance, not timed for effect. Just a man doing his job after a father asked him for protection. Melissa stood shaking. "Dad, what did you do?" I didn't answer because the person who would answer for me had just walked through the door. Mr. Branson stepped inside with the quiet confidence of a man who'd spent 40 years dealing with families, estates, and the consequences of decisions made too late. He nodded to everyone politely. Then he turned to me. "Not Melissa. Frank, I brought the documents you asked for. Thank you for calling earlier." Earlier? Hours before dinner? Hours before Melissa slid those power of attorney papers toward me. This wasn't a dramatic setup. It was a father preparing himself. For a moment he hoped would never come. Melissa pressed a hand to her chest. "Dad, you called a lawyer today. Why? Why would you do that?" Her voice wasn't angry. It was desperate. And this time it wasn't manipulation. It was fear. Fear of losing something she finally realized mattered. Mr. Branson placed a small stack of documents on the table, right beside the cracked navy pocket watch. The watch caught his eye. "You still have this," he said gently. I nodded. "My wife gave it to me before my last deployment." Melissa stared at it, her guilt deepening. Mr. Branson opened his folder. "Melissa, I want to make something very clear. Your father isn't here to punish you. He simply called me because he needed protection. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Protection from me? He didn't answer that question directly. Instead, he adjusted his glasses and spoke professionally. 6 months ago, your father set up an irrevocable trust. This means his home, assets, and all major decisions are already secured. Melissa froze. I could see her processing. The papers she tried to make me sign were already powerless. She looked like someone realizing they almost burned down a house. Without realizing they were inside it, Mr. Branson continued. The trust was not created to exclude you. It was created to protect him from anyone making decisions on his behalf without his full consent. Her face turned red, then pale, then a color somewhere in between. I didn't mean to hurt him, I swear. Her voice cracked. I thought I should take responsibility. I thought I was helping. Mr. Branson closed the folder gently. Trying to help someone by removing their autonomy isn't help, it's control. Shock rippled through her group of friends. One whispered she brought power of attorney papers to his birthday. Another murmured, wow, poor guy. Melissa shook her head furiously. Dad, no. It wasn't like that. I swear I didn't mean. I held up a hand, not to silence her, to steady her. I believe you, Melissa. But intentions don't erase actions. Her knees buckled. She gripped the edge of the table to stay standing. Mr. Branson added, there's one last item. Your father already named his beneficiary. Her breath caught. She whispered, who? Who did he choose? I looked at her slowly, not with anger, not even with disappointment, with the sadness only a parent knows, the kind that comes when love isn't returned properly. Someone who remembers respect. Someone who hasn't forgotten who I am. Her tears streamed again, heavier this time. Not guilt tears, not fear tears, lost tears. Mr. Branson stood preparing to leave. Frank, call me if you need anything. He paused at the door. And Melissa, you still have time to fix this. But that time isn't infinite. He left quietly. The door closed, silence, only the uneven ticking of the cracked navy pocket watch filled the room. Tick, tick, tick. Time was moving and Melissa was running out of it. She sank slowly to the floor, sobbing into her hands. Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't want your house. I don't want your money. I just don't want to lose you. Her friend stepped away, giving her space. Evan stood behind her, unsure of how to help. The pocket watch ticked again, and as I looked at it, cracked but still working, I realized something. You don't throw away what's broken. You repair it slowly, carefully, gently, but only if the other person is willing to help fix it. I reached for my cane, slowly, stood, and said the words that would define everything that came next. This isn't the end, Melissa, but it isn't the start until you're ready to change. The dining room felt hollow after Mr. Branson left. Not silent, but stripped of all the noise that had filled it before. Melissa knelt on the floor, shoulders shaking, her hands covering her face. Her friends stared at their plates. Evan stood still, guilt and confusion tightening his jaw. The cracked navy pocket watch sat in the center of the table, ticking unevenly. Tick, tick, tick. Even broken things keep time. I steadied myself with my cane and approached Melissa slowly. She didn't look up. She whispered into her palms, Dad, please don't leave me. Please don't walk out of my life. I crouched beside her as much as my knees would allow. Navy training teaches a man to stand strong, but age teaches him how to bend gently. I placed my hand on her shoulder. Melissa, I'm not walking out of your life, but I am walking away tonight. She lifted her face, eyes red, lips trembling. Why? I said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I shook my head softly. You meant well, but meaning well is not the same as doing right. Her tears kept falling, but I saw something new there. Not guilt, not fear, humility. The thing her mother had prayed she would rediscover. Her friend stepped back respectfully as I stood again, leaning on my cane. Evan finally spoke, his voice low. Frank, I'm sorry I didn't stop her. I should have known better. I nodded. It's not your burden, son. It's hers. Before leaving, I reached for the pocket watch. The crack across the glass shimmered under the lights, bending the reflection of everyone in that room. A perfect metaphor. I held it out toward Melissa. She looked at it like it was a relic. Dad, that's Mom's. You never let me touch it after she passed. I nodded. Because your mother wound this watch for me every night before deployment. And when she was gone, you were too young to understand what it meant. Her throat tightened. I placed the watch gently into her hands. She flinched in surprise. Dad, why are you giving me this? I closed her fingers around it. Because if you're ever going to fix what you broke, you'll need to remember who you were before pride got in the way. Her tears splashed onto the cracked glass. The crack didn't vanish, but something inside her did. Her voice was barely a whisper. Dad, I'll change, I swear. Just please don't close the door on me. I gave one small nod. I won't close it. But I can't hold it open for you either. She broke again. But not in a destructive way, in a healing way. I turned, leaned on my cane, and walked toward the door. No dramatic exit, no slamming. Just quiet steps of a man who had loved deeply and had finally chosen to protect himself. Before stepping out, I said, "When you're ready to be the woman your mother believed you would become, come find me." And then I left. The door closed softly behind me. 3 months later, winter melted away, giving way to a softer spring. I spent my mornings fishing and my evenings repairing an old birdhouse my wife once decorated. Life was quiet, not lonely, just peaceful. Then one morning, a soft knock at my door. Not rushed, not desperate. A humble knock. I opened the door and froze. It was Melissa. No makeup, no polished clothing, her hair tied back simply. In her hands, a sealed envelope, a photo of us from her childhood. A document terminating her attempt at power of attorney. And the navy pocket watch cleaned. Polished, the glass repaired. The crack was gone. She handed the watch back to me with both hands. The way someone gives back something sacred. "Dad, I fixed it. And I fixed myself, too." Her voice trembled. I began therapy. I stepped back from work. Evan and I talked for hours. I read Mom's letters 100 times. She looked up, tears in her eyes. "I came here not to take anything, not to be forgiven instantly, just to ask if I can start over." I took the watch slowly, feeling the smooth repair glass with my thumb. Then I looked at my daughter. Not the woman who tried to take control of my life, but the girl who once waited by the window for me to come home from deployment. I opened the door wider, not all the way, but enough. "Come in, Melissa. We'll start with coffee." She exhaled, a release of all the mistakes, pride and fear she'd held for years. We walked inside together. The pocket watch ticked again, smooth, steady, whole, just like us. Broken once, repaired slowly, but still capable of keeping time if this story moves you. If you felt the betrayal, the justice, or the redemption deep inside, please take a moment to hit like. It tells me this story mattered. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your words don't just echo, they inspire the next story. And if you believe in stories that stand for truth, loyalty, and poetic justice, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell.